Hey, if you're exercising 3+ times per week, but you're not losing weight after 40, I'm going to break down in this video 5 sneaky reasons your workouts aren't translating to weight loss despite showing up, putting in the hard work, eating healthy, and what you need to start shifting to see those results right away. And hey, if we haven't met before, I'm Becky Fox. I'm a fat loss coach. I've been working in the industry for 20 years. And over that time, I've helped thousands of women get fit and lose fat in a sustainable way. All right, let's dive into why you're working out hard yet not seeing the results that you are working so hard for. All right, let's go for it. So, as you're hopping in, say hello and let's dive into the first one. So, one of the things that I see is really common is women are focusing way too much on cardio and not enough on strength training. Okay, so I know for many of you guys, if you've been around for a while, you know originally we were taught, right? Burn calories, work up a sweat, do a bunch of cardio. I know back in the day when I used to, when I first got started, I would do 2-a-days. I would do cardio in the morning and I would do cardio at night, and I was exhausted. So it's not about how many calories we actually burn in the workout. Okay, we want to be building muscle. Muscle, especially as you're over 40, is going to be really important to help boost your metabolism, to help you burn more calories after your workout. It takes a lot of energy to recover and rebuild that muscle. And a lot of times this is neglected. Okay. Plus, if we have more muscle on our body, it's going to keep our metabolism running higher. What does that mean? Our resting metabolic rate is higher, so we actually burn more calories at rest. So rather than focusing so much on cardio and maybe doing strength training here or there, let's flip-flop that around to where really we want to be strength training 3 to 4 times a week in those workouts. Okay. And if we are doing cardio as our workouts, we want to think of that more like we're sprinkling that in. Okay. So instead of making cardio the main dish, let's make it the side dish and make strength training be that top dish. Now, I know when you're looking at your tracker or whatever you might be using to look at how many calories you're burning, it's not going to look the same as the cardio. But when we do cardio, let's say we're just jogging on a treadmill, the calorie burn stops as soon as we hop off that treadmill. Whereas with strength training, it's going to continue on into the next day. Okay. And so those numbers aren't going to be accounted for. So I don't even like to look at how many calories I burn during my workout. I don't even like to do that as a thing because it's so inaccurate and it doesn't account for other types of working out. All right. So drop a comment. Let me know, are you already doing 3 to 4 days of strength training? Are you a cardio bunny? Are you somebody that knows you need to change things up a little bit? And I know it's hard to make that switch, especially if we have it in our head that we have to burn calories, burn calories, burn calories. But another thing you'll notice when you do way too much cardio, like when I was doing this back when I was younger, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to make it harder to lose weight too. If we're overworking out, whether it's too much cardio, or even if our strength training workouts are too long, or we're trying to do a bunch of high intensity, it's going to increase hunger. It's going to increase stress on your system. Ladies, when we're in perimenopause and menopause, we have to be mindful of the amount of stress we're putting on our system, right? Because stress will impact our fat loss results. Okay. And it's not just the mental stress that we have in our life, but it's the physical stress that we have from over exercising, overtraining, and even restricting calories too low where we're not fueling our body. Okay. So strength training over cardio. Yes, we can still do cardio. I'm not saying cardio is bad, right? It's just that we want to make sure we have our priorities straight with what's going to help us to get the best results here. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I see this a lot with people, is they're just following random workouts, right? And so it's really important to, if you want to see better results from the workouts that you're doing, whether that's increased fat loss, whether that's getting stronger over time, our workouts should be progressive. I know I was actually having this conversation with somebody the other day where it's like they don't like doing the same workout, they like a lot of variety and they want to change it up all the time. And I get it. They can keep it novel and they can keep it fun. And so, they might be on YouTube trying to find, a different workout every single time they work out. But here's the thing, right? here's the truth about fat loss, right? That you're going to have to embrace at some point if you really want to see results, is that there's a lot of parts of this that are going to be freaking boring. Okay. Fat loss is not supposed to be the funnest thing we do in our day. Now, can we do things to make it funner? Absolutely, 100%. Right. But one of those comes down to our workouts. And I see a lot of people trying to, have a lot of variety and do a lot of different things with their workouts. But true progress actually comes from progressing our workouts. And what do I mean by this? It means I want you to actually repeat the workouts over. For my clients, what we do one-on-one is they repeat the same workout over 4 weeks, and then we change things up. Why do we do that? Because we can start to work on form and improve our form for that exercise. We can progress, which means that we can try to get heavier weights over that 4-week period. We can try to get more reps in during that period, right? So let's just say we'll take a very basic exercise like a squat. Maybe we're doing a goblet squat where we're holding a weight. I might start somebody with 15 pounds. Maybe they're only doing 10 reps, right? That second week, we may try to get 12 reps in, right? We've progressed a little, we've made progress, right? Maybe that third or fourth week, we go to a 20-pound dumbbell, right? So we're upping the reps, we're upping the weight. And that's what's exciting about it, right? When we're changing things up all the time, it's really hard to see the actual progress that we're making. And it's hard for us to make that progress. And in that progress, in that progression, is where we see those strength gains. That's how we really can maximize the muscle gain and maximize the fat loss that we're getting from our workout. So sometimes boring is actually better. And I know a lot of you guys out there may not want to hear this because we like that novelty and we like that variety. But I encourage you to embrace those small, repeating the same workouts, but embracing those small shifts, those small progresses that you're noticing every single week. And it's going to be hard to miss if you're, doing a different workout every time. This is also where having a structure to your program is really, really key. So making sure that your program, again, if you're just kind of picking random workouts on YouTube or something like that, right, the structure may not fit what you need for your goals. Right. So a lot of times, people are like, another example of somebody I was talking to was telling me how they do like a different body part every, they're working out 5 days a week. They're doing a different body part every single day. And honestly, for most of you guys, that's like not necessary. Okay. Most of the clients that I work with, depending on their time, we shoot for 3 to 4 days a week. If it's 3 days, we will probably do 3 full body workouts, especially if they're a beginner. If they're more advanced, I like to get people more leaning towards 4 times a week, and we'll do 2 upper body and 2 lower. But honestly, unless you're trying to be a bodybuilder and really grow a lot of muscle, you don't need to break up your workouts so much. And because of that, you are not actually getting the impact from those workouts as much as you want by breaking things up so much. Okay, so we want to make sure that the workouts that we're doing fit our goals, that we have some structure to it, and that we're progressing over the course of time. So we're improving. And after 4 weeks, typically what I do with my clients is we're going to change things up. We might try a little, like maybe we go from, holding the weight, doing a goblet squat to, hey, now we're going to like balance a little bit more on one leg and do like a single leg squat, right? So progression is also over time. Are we trying harder movements? Are we trying to challenge ourselves in different ways? Okay. Are we bumping up the weight? Are we trying to increase reps? And then when we get to a certain point with reps, we want to pick up that weight, start back down and increase again. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. This is really important when we're looking at really maximizing our strength, maximizing our muscle definition, and also maximizing our fat loss with our workouts, okay? And so it's number 2. Number 3, okay, I have a lot of people, man, you are great about getting your workouts in. You're doing your 30, 45-minute, hour-long workout, whatever that is. And that's amazing. Like, give yourself a pat on the back because there's a lot of people out there who are not consistently getting in their workouts. But one of the things we have to keep in mind is that it's not enough to just work out and then sit on your butt the rest of the day, okay? Which is really easy to do if you have a sedentary job, right? If you're sitting at a desk for 8 hours, 10 hours, however long, maybe you're commuting in the car, right? So you're spending a lot of your day sitting, and it's not enough to just get those workouts in. When we look at how many calories we're burning in a day, there's a couple things that factor that in. Exercise is actually the smallest piece of that. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't exercise, but it's only going to make up about 5 to 10% of the calories that we burn. Now, within that, the more muscle we have, it's going to increase our metabolic rate, which will increase calories more. But the second thing that's going to have a big impact is our movement, just getting in steps, just going for walks, just dancing around your house, having fun, just going for a bike ride with the kids, right? Fun, light activity. And this really adds up. People don't realize this can add up to 10 to 15% of your daily calorie output, right? So if we're skipping this piece, we're missing a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to actually burning off fat. Now, why do we want to have light movement instead of just like popping in more cardio? Well, the reasons that we talked about before. If we're doing too high of intensity exercise too often, it's going to increase stress on the body. It's going to increase our hunger to where we might actually overeat, calories in, not seeing fat loss results. So we do want to balance challenging, harder workouts with recovery. And recovery is light movement, stretching, it's getting in walks, things like this. So what I suggest, what I have my clients do when we get started is we always take some time to see where they're at. Put a step tracker on, get a baseline, all right? And then we want to work towards that 8 to 10,000 steps a day. However it works for you. It could be going for walks. It could be getting up and moving more. It could be taking a dance class. Doesn't really matter what it is. We want to work to slowly get that up over time. A lot of times I see people will try to go from 3,000 steps a day to 10,000. That's a huge jump, right? So if we can take smaller steps with that, it's going to feel more realistic and more doable, and you'll get there, right? But if you take bite-sized chunks, it's going to be something more sustainable to work your way up towards. Okay, so we can't just work out, right? We want to have our workouts as part of our plan, but we also want to make sure we're not just sitting on our butt the rest of the day. We're getting up, we're moving around, we're not just sedentary. Okay. So find fun ways to do it. I love going for walks, especially now that it's nice out. I love getting out in nature. I love doing yoga. I take a dance class. It's on break for right now, but I'll be excited to get back in the fall, taking a dance class once a week. So finding ways that you enjoy. Maybe you like to just go for a walk with the hubby, or take the dogs out for a walk, right? It can be, you can fit it into things that you're already doing into your day, right? Instead of maybe watching Netflix for an hour, maybe you guys go for a walk together, right? Sometimes I'll even go for a walk and do things for work. I might message my teammates. I might, catch up on some client messages. I may, check some things on social media. So sometimes we can multitask getting that movement in. Also, I have a walking pad. So I do have a desk treadmill that helps a lot, especially when it's colder out or the weather isn't nice. Like it's supposed to rain today. So I'm totally going to take advantage of this to get more steps in. So we have to be moving, not just working out, you guys. Okay. And shooting for that 8 to 10,000 steps is really, really important. And I know I used to think it was stupid. I thought walking was a waste of time. Like, why would I want to walk? Like everything had to be hardcore. And as I've gotten older, I've embraced that light movement is just as important as getting in the hard stuff. Okay. All right. Hopefully this is resonating with you guys. If so, drop a yes in the comments down below for me. Maybe one of these is standing out to you already. All right. I got 2 more for you. 2 more. All right. Next, we're going to talk about eating healthy. Okay. I do want to talk about nutrition a little bit because, we can't just work out and ignore nutrition. It's just not going to work, right? You might see some initial progress, but it is going to stall. It is going to plateau. We cannot ignore nutrition. Okay. So, but a lot of times what I find is you are eating healthy. You are making better choices and you're like, why isn't this working? Right. And so we have to keep in mind that you might be eating healthy, but it might not be in a way that's actually supporting your goals. Okay. So what do I mean by this? It could be that you're under fueling. I see a lot of women, they're working out 3-4 days a week. They're getting in a lot of steps. They're doing all these things. And then they're eating like 1,200 calories, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is barely enough for your metabolism to function, right? A lot of people have a resting metabolism that's 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 calories, meaning when you sit on your butt doing absolutely nothing, you need that resting metabolism is what just keeps you alive. It keeps your heart running. It keeps your lungs working, right? All the just normal body processes that we have. And so if we're not even eating enough to fuel that stuff, imagine what that's doing when we're trying to get in our workouts and we're trying to, you know, just go on and live our lives and have some kind of energy, right? Underfueling is going to do a couple things. Our body will start to compensate. So we will actually burn less calories from what we're doing. So it does slow our metabolism down. A lot of times, this is also why you may be working out a lot, but you're not really seeing a lot of muscle definition, because it's really hard to build muscle when we're barely eating enough for what our body needs to survive, right? And if we're eating really low calories too, it can be really hard to get in the protein, which is the building blocks for that muscle, right? So if you want to actually like look toned and defined and feel good and actually be able to stick to what you're doing, we have to make sure we're fueling with enough calories so that we can build muscle, so we can fuel those workouts, and so that we're not slowing our metabolism down in the process. Now, if you're not sure how many calories you should be eating, I do have a calorie calculator that you can grab. It's totally free. So just drop calorie in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to get that over to you, because that is a good starting point to give you a baseline of, hey, where should I be with my calories, right? Because it is dependent on how active you are, your height, your age. All these things should be factored in to give you a more accurate number, okay? And lastly, right, you could be, but on the, well, let me, before I move on the opposite side of that, I do also see people that are eating healthy and they don't realize they're eating too much, right? So you can eat healthy foods and you can totally, you know, you can be eating all the avocados and the nuts and all these high calorie foods and not realize you're eating way over what your body needs for the day. So we can underfuel, but we can also eat healthy and eat too much. And if we're not in a calorie deficit and we're eating too many calories, even though we're working out, you're not going to see fat loss. It's just, you just won't. Okay. So this is why nutrition is so, so important. Okay. And lastly, we've got to make sure we're getting enough protein to support our goals, right? So if you are working out a lot, you're trying to build muscle, you want to optimize your metabolism, protein is non-negotiable. Okay. We have to get that protein up. A good starting point is taking your goal body weight times that by 0.7. That's a starting point. Depending on your goals and where you're at on your journey, that might get increased, but that's a good starting point if you're not sure where to start with. Okay. So again, right, this is another reason why a lot of women are working out and they might not be seeing like the definition that they want. They might not see those results. Protein, you have to have the protein to build the muscle. Otherwise, you're not going to build the muscle. Okay. And protein does a couple other things too. Protein, we were talking about what we expend, the calories that we expend. It takes more energy for us to break protein down than it does for us to break down like carbs and fats. So just by having more protein, we also actually burn more calories just from digesting that. So that's a added benefit as well. So two people could be needing the same exact calories, have similar goals, one eating more protein and one not eating barely any protein. That person will see more fat loss, that person eating that protein, believe it or not, just because of the thermic effect that on food that protein has. Okay. All right, let's get into this last one, you guys. We're almost there. So hopefully this is, you're having some light bulbs go off in your head where you might be stuck on your journey, okay? Because it sucks to feel like you're working super hard. You're getting your workouts in consistently. You're showing up for yourself. You're putting in the work, right? And sometimes, yeah, you are. But we just need some small tweaks. We need some small changes, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So it's not your fault that, sometimes we're doing the wrong things, right? Because there's a lot of people preaching the wrong stuff out there. And so it's important to make sure we're doing the things that actually move the needle. Okay. All right. So last one is we actually talked about this a little bit already, which is just working out too often or too intensely for too long. Okay. Again, sometimes when we have these big fat loss goals, we're like, more is better, right? I was like 2 cardios a day, plus doing weight training, plus eating like barely any calories. I'm like, oh, more is better, right? But it will often backfire, right? Because too much is too much, right? Especially as we're hitting perimenopause, menopause. We talked about, we have to be mindful of the stress we're placing on our system, right? Stress from all different angles, including, right? Are we overtraining? Are we overworking out? Sometimes just by having clients cut back the amount of training that they're doing and having more recovery in there, whether it's just getting in some steps or doing some yoga, they will start to see better results because we'll get their cortisol more level. We'll get them de-stressing, and that's going to help let their body know it's safe to burn fat. Plus, right, when we're doing too much, it can ramp up hunger. It can ramp up cravings, making it really difficult for us if we are trying to stay within a calorie budget or to make better choices. We can maybe find ourselves overeating, binge eating, these kinds of things. And so we will tend to compensate, right, by eating too much food. And well, we're not going to see fat loss results if we're overeating the calories, right? Even if we are, training a bunch. Plus, it just leads to burnout, right? You get worn out on your plan. You get exhausted. So the weekend comes and you don't even feel like doing anything. And we also compensate in that when our workouts are too intense or too long or too much, we will tend to naturally move less during the day, right? Just to make up for that. So we talked before about how important it is to get those steps in, because by getting those steps in, we increase calorie burn throughout the day. Well, when you overtrain, you're going to decrease your movement overall. So you kind of end up balancing it out where you're not even burning as many calories as you thought, right? So it really comes down, when it comes to our workouts, it comes down to balancing these things out. It's not about more. It's not always about harder, right? It's not about restricting the calories. We want to feel good in this process. We want to feel energized in this process. That's going to be what makes it sustainable and something that we can actually stick to in the long run. And so, there's a balance between, yes, pushing ourselves and working hard, and trying to be on too often and too much and overdoing it. And our body's usually giving us signs that this is happening. So we just have to tune in and listen, right? If you're feeling exhausted all day long, if you're always hungry, if your cravings are high, if your joints are achy, a lot of the times, even sometimes doing too much, you start to, impact your sleep and these things. So pay attention to what your body is telling you, because it's trying to tell you something is off. And we want to make sure we tweak that and adjust that and fix that so that you can see better results from what it is that you're doing. So drop a comment below. Let me know which one of these stood out to you the most. Number one, are you doing too much cardio and not enough strength training? Okay. Are you kind of following random workouts, trying to get a ton of variety instead of following a structured plan that progresses you over time so that you can actually see the see the strength gains, see the progress that you're making, and actually optimize your plan for more strength, muscle, and fat loss? Okay, that's number two. Number three, do you need to get more steps in? Are we focusing so much on the workouts that we're forgetting about the other movement that we need to be doing the rest of the day, right? Four, maybe you're eating healthy, but you're not really following a structured plan that fits to your goals, right? Maybe you're under fueling. Maybe you're eating healthy, but there's no real structure to what you're doing to make sure you're on the right track with fat loss, right? Eating healthy and eating for fat loss are two different things. Maybe that protein is suffering. You need more protein. Right. And lastly, are you one of those people that you're going hard, going long, and it's backfiring and something's got to change? All right. Let me know which one of these stood out to you. What was your biggest takeaway? And hey, if you are looking for more support on how to structure your workouts, progress your workouts, and actually get results from what you're doing, I do have a few spots in my one-on-one Fat Loss Accelerator program. It is a nutrition and fitness program where everything is customized to what you need to reach your goals. If you're interested in that, just drop transform in a comment down below. I'll be sure to get that application over to you. And of course, thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I appreciate it. And we'll see you back here next week.